this computer. Okay. Um, I always have to have a funny thing when I start. I do this when Steph was here recording me too. I was like, I can't be serious right away. Um, so today's conversation is about worthiness and how we try to earn our worth in work. And Nate, I know that you have done so much work on yourself and your self-awareness is through the roof, and your ability to check and regulate and be your best self no matter what is incredibly inspiring. Now that you know that your worth is inherent, even though society tried to make you forget that, can you look back on your career and see where you tried to hard scrabble earn your worth and what that looked like?
Oh boy. Well, thank you for the acknowledgement of my work. It's been a fun journey with you. Um, the first thing that kind of came to mind was the gut punch of 2021. So we haven't at that point hadn't come out of like the pandemic truly where things were opened up. I had led my business Metcalf through that first year and a half of just uncertainty and chaos and you name it. Um, there was fear everywhere within the organization, within my company, within my teams, trying to hold that together for them, in addition to what I was trying to hold together for myself and at home, um, really took it out of me. And what I think I struggled with around self-worth at that time was I felt like the only way that I could receive that worth, that love, that acknowledgement was through self-sacrifice unto the point of actually having a near mental breakdown. Um, Struggling with depression through that time, isolation through that time. It had a physical toll and a mental toll that has taken me the better part of 3+ years to come out of. So that's what really kind of hit me first.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, I feel like a lot of men specifically can really resonate with what you shared, especially with that pressure to perform and to be successful at business, and
Yeah.
then not really have a place, a safe place to land to talk about what you're going through and your fears and to air all of your troubles. And during that time, can you see that like small buildup to that dark place that you were in and how it was probably some big moments, but some tiny little cuts over time?
Oh yeah. I'm a naturally optimistic person. I kind of feel like that's an essential trait of someone who's in the trenches leading, especially during a time like that. And it was the little cut, little cut, little cut, big shoot a drop sort of, reply all email that would cut deeper, where people were just laying me out because I was too optimistic, that I wasn't too realistic about the situation that we were all going through. And that's where it just started chipping away and chipping away and chipping away at my energy, my mana, my ability to show up as my best person. Um, I would come out of the basement from virtual meetings all day long to be exhausted and try and be a dad, and then to struggle to connect with my partner during that time and that stress. So to your point, I didn't really have a safe outlet. I wasn't really seeing a lot of people and friends outside of the home just due to circumstances. And so, yeah, it was the proverbial death by a thousand cuts, some of them certainly deeper than others.
And because you are so strong and you are so optimistic naturally, but also that is the air that you just give to everyone around you. Do you think anyone noticed that you were having such a hard time?
Not right away. No, it wasn't until early 22 when it was one of those deep cuts that happened where there was a disastrous all hands on deck virtual meeting where I felt like finally um, the voices that wanted to wrest influence and the leadership that I was bringing to the company to take that away from me had finally done it. And I thought I had lost control of the crew and the team and the morale and the company. And yet that was the galvanizing moment where people did show up and say, that's total BS. We didn't learn anything new that you haven't been telling us for the last 2 years, except you do it with a, hey, we can get through this. We can actually do better than what we're doing, and we can do it safely and get back to where we were. And that's what really brought the team together. Honestly, 2022 was the year that we finally turned the corner as a company from a financial standpoint, from a logistical standpoint. I mean, all cylinders were beginning to fire. And that's when we, started our leadership coaching and our work, was because I knew I had to level up. I'm like, we did it. My company, like when I thought I lost it, it was like, no, we're ready to throttle up, Nate. Like, don't leave, because I was already there. I was at the door. I was figuratively walking out the door, and it was a text message that I got later on that day that pulled me back in. I said, "Nope, I'm not done with this fight." And so that's when we engaged, right? I was like, I have to level up. I have to come out of my figurative and literal basement and emerge into this new world and say, let's freaking do it.
Um, the what I like about what you shared is it was that one text message, right? Because there's often times
Hmm.
when someone thinks about someone and maybe thinks, oh, I'm not going to text them. I don't want to bother them. But that person followed through, right? And reached out to you. And that moment is a tipping point for you. In addition to that, like if you, looking back, now knowing what you know today, in those moments leading up to that really dark place, what would you have done differently from a point of like, I am worthy no matter what is going on around me?
I would have engaged a leadership coach much sooner. I would have engaged in my own self-therapy much sooner. I would have relied on resources that I was not finding in and around me in the relationships where I was currently at. And so that's what I would have done sooner in hindsight, was to create those new relationships, to lay those new energetic tracks so that I could get off the current path that I was on.
I think one thing I've seen a lot in, potential client calls that I've had, and I know I saw in my own life, when I was in my darkest point, was when I needed the help the most, but I didn't think I deserved it because my self-worth was so low as well, right? But from a business perspective, you always think, is your loss worth the gain? The earlier you get help, no matter what dark place you're in, the faster you grow. And then you earn, the income. Like if you're looking at it from a financial perspective, the faster you, no matter how low you are, the faster you make change, the faster it changes.
Hmm.
So, but it's often the time when we are in our darkest moments that we don't ask for help.
Yep. Yep. And that's where we, like you said, we grow the most when we push through that discomfort, the most uncomfortable spot. That's change. That's growth. The comfort zone is not. And so you're absolutely right. Creating a new village of support around you to push through those super uncomfortable moments and feelings and everything else is critical. And that's what's brought me here.
You always use this word flywheel, which I really love when you use it.
Hmm.
Had you and I, in my dark moment, which happened in 2018, 2017, whenever that was, received help earlier, our flywheel would have started earlier, which means momentum would have built faster.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
thank goodness Opus AI takes out filler words, but is something I'm working on, just by the way.
10-4.
10 more. So, do you remember how your body felt back in that moment in 2021? How it felt?
Yes. Exhausted. I hold my tension in my gut. And so there was physical discomfort. I couldn't sleep, even though I was exhausted. And I had two young kids that certainly didn't contribute to, restful nights, but still, um, I had insomnia. And so, yeah, there was just a lot of heaviness. I couldn't shake it. I felt sluggish. I felt distant, that the porthole effect, if you will, because my lowest point, ironically, came while I was on vacation in Florida at the beach, and I worked every single day. And during that time, the company almost ran out of cash because we were struggling to get any kind of support through COVID because we were busy as all get out, but we don't get paid pretty quickly, and the AR turnaround sort of thing. That struggle was real. We were fending off a litigative instance as well as a company. I mean, it all just coalesced. And then that was when my uncle went into ICU with COVID and never came out. So yeah, that was a like physical battle in the summer of 2021.
How, now that you've done inner work and that has shifted your habits as well, which is a sign of higher self-worth, how do you feel in your body today, even on a stressful day?
Strong, resilient, like certainly resilient. Um, I've just got a greater set of tools to process what I'm going through. Um, it's it's easier to pull myself out of, spiraling tendencies when I'm going into a dark place. Um, Meditation has been key. I'm back, running consistently on the trail, and that's my meditative space. Um, Deep breathing and, quiet. So trying to practice an hour of silence, that's been a very powerful and revealing practice most recently. So I feel just safer. That's probably the biggest word to take away from it is I feel safer in my physical self.
And can you correlate how you show up differently as a leader when you make the habits every day to feel safer, lighter, and stronger in your body?
Absolutely. Um, People want to feel safe, especially when you have, an event like a pandemic and that whole couple years that people went through. They wanted to feel safe. They didn't know where safety was at. And now that I can arrive feeling the way I do in my interactions, I can be safe for my kids when something scares them or startles them, or they go through an experience that young children are still trying to figure out how to process. I can handle the email that comes out. It's where someone just says, I just need to let Nate know this, and I don't need to necessarily respond with a fix. I just respond with a statement of like, thank you, I see you, let me know if there's anything I can do to support you through, this big feeling that you have. So by extension, my safety, I think feels safe for others because the more I step into that feeling, the more people tell me, the more people approach me, the more people talk to me, the more my kids like climb on my back and want to be held and things like that. And so I think I just naturally cultivate that feeling when I am stronger in that presence. And so that's why it's not only important to me, but I see the result, the manifestation, the outward of that, which is really cool.
And you've brought up your kids, but I'm sure you've seen your team be braver, bolder, maybe have those harder conversations that then strengthen the vulnerability of the team as a result of your safety and your powerful embodiment as a leader.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I saw that show up during the acquisition process of Metcalf. Um, we have two very strong leaders as vice presidents that were running operations entirely by the time we were starting talks with Terracon. And um, to see them lead through that change, through that uncertainty, and to have their teams arrive with the news fully informed of what we were doing and why we were doing it. We were in this together and we're leading through this change together. And to look back now almost a year later and see we've kept everyone. Everyone found a safe spot at the new company. We didn't lose a single person. And I credit Kim and Demita really and their leadership for stepping up. They too did the practice. They too went through leadership certification and coaching. And they arrived just when their team needed it most. And I take, pride in that because I all I did was create the safe space for them to step into that and do it themselves. That's all I did. That was the one thing that I took out of the pandemic and leading through it is that the more I can create a safe sandbox or playground or whatever you want to use as an analogy, a safe workspace, people can thrive and they do it on their own. You'll see the natural leadership step up. And I feel once again, going back to the question about safety, people feel safe in that space to lead and follow, to succeed and fail. And it was just so cool to see that coalesce. And as we all move through the acquisition, just the lightness and the power that they stepped up to as they led through that with me was incredible.
It is very conscious leadership, raising the consciousness of leadership of you in that you're modeling behavior. You're emitting a frequency that enables those around you to really find their own strengths and capitalize on them and embody them as well. So, in part of this safety, you mentioned some habits that you practice regularly. What is the number one spiritual tool that you're using right now that empowers you at work?
Well, we can go back to, the question around self-worth of knowing when to ask for help. I think the most powerful practice that I have engaged in finally is community. So I'm working with my Sangha group regularly now. Our circle is about to form here in Boulder in December. Um, I'm leaning into that because I feel the energy that I come out of those practices with my circle. Um, it calms me. It centers me. Um, it really kind of brings the energy that kind of for me sometimes is all over, buzzing all over because I answer an email, I get on a call, I'm in a meeting, I'm getting this request, or I'm reaching out to support someone here if I can. And it allows me to pull all that back to me for just an hour and just a couple hours a week. And that alone allows me to be like, okay, I'm back and I'm ready to build again. And so then I go back out into the world and start all over until the next practice and then bring it back together. So that sense of community and working with those individuals has been tremendously powerful recently.
It's so interesting, and I'm not an anthropologist or whatever the name is of this person, but if you look at the pandemic separated us, right? But it also showed us where we thought we had community, but we didn't. Or maybe it was community that we never showed up as our authentic, vulnerable selves. And now what they're finding is that these little micro communities where we really can show up authentically, vulnerably on our worst day and our best day is where what people are wanting. Statistics are showing it's on trend. Okay, great. But also what we're needing. And if you look back in tribal days, I mean, you're an archaeologist more than I am. This is what we had. There was the wise woman in the community. There was someone to go to. There was, there were more like people lived by their grandparents and their families, and we had that sense of community. So I love how you're seeing this community support you and asking for help as a spiritual practice.
Thank you.
You're
Does that mean we're on a
increasing your
trend? We're trendsetters? Is that what you
Yeah.
mean?
And you're increasing your capacity to receive. And as you increase your capacity to receive, you increase your self-worth. So the equation goes, you attract more, you attract better. When you let the universe know that you're open to receiving, your vessel expands and the universe is like, here you go. I've got more for you. And you're an active participant in that, right? I think people always get struggle with the nuance of this where they think, oh, I asked the universe for this thing, so I'm just going to sit and hope it descends from my ceiling. But you're a do the universe requires aligned doing and asking and receiving. It's this beautiful work weaving together. And so you're showcasing that as someone who would do without asking for help, you've now added asking for help as a spiritual practice to your sort of equation of life. And so you're aligned in your actions and your embodiment. You're asking for help, you're receiving, you're doing, you're asking for help, you're receiving. So you're just really increasing your capacity and your vibration on earth.
Well, and my goal is to see how it manifests with other people too, which is incredible
Mhm.
because it's all you got to do is just show up. And they're like, I like that energy. What's going on with that energy? I'm like, I don't know, but it's arriving. There's a lot of it. There's an infinite amount of it. You want some? Like, let's do this.
So my last question for you, and you may not have it today, and that's okay. What is your intention for the next month?
Trusting the abundance that has arrived and that is still arriving. Like trusting that it's okay to accept all of it, free of any guilt, free of any shame, free of any feeling like I'm indebted to wherever that energy and abundance came from. That's
That's
my
some,
intention.
that's some Catholicism that you're rooting out of your family genetics and history and line.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Um, yeah, that was an intention with a meditation with my Sangha group and um, our
Trusting the
our
good
guide.
is a hard one for a lot of us. Trusting the
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. Our guide was like, "Whoa, that's a big one." When I put it out there as an intention before the meditation began.
Those are all my questions I have for you. Thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is like so much fun.
Um, I'm gonna turn off the recording unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, I'm good.